I still remember standing in my kitchen at 2 in the morning, still wearing my scrubs from a 12-hour shift, staring at a tiny scratch-off ticket under the yellow glow of my overhead light. My hands were literally shaking. Not because I was tired, though I absolutely was, but because the numbers I kept seeing didn't seem real. I scratched that card 3 times, thinking I had misread it. I hadn't. $100 million. And the most unbelievable part, that ticket had been my Christmas gift. Not a thoughtful gift, not an envelope with a heartfelt card. A single $2 scratch-off my parents had tossed at me across the dinner table, while my sister unwrapped a luxury Caribbean cruise worth $13,000. My family had handed me a joke. What they didn't know was that joke was about to completely rewrite all of our lives, and not a single one of them would see it coming. Growing up in our house, you could feel the difference without anyone ever saying it out loud. My sister Renata was the golden child, the one who got the better bedroom, the newer car for her 16th birthday, the college fund that nobody had to fight for. I am Elena. I am the older daughter, the nurse, the one who worked double shifts and paid off her own student loans while Renata floated through life on our parents' generosity without ever once saying thank you. My parents aren't cruel people. I want to make that clear. They are just the kind of people who convinced themselves that treating their children differently was somehow logical. My mother always said Renata needed more support because she was sensitive. My father said I was the strong one, as if strength was a reason to be overlooked rather than celebrated. For years, I told myself it was fine. I had built something real on my own. I had a career I was proud of, a small apartment I loved, and a life that didn't depend on anyone else's approval. But that Christmas changed everything. We gathered at my parents' house on Christmas Eve, the same way we always did. The living room smelled like pine and cinnamon, and my mother had decorated every inch of that house the way she always did, perfectly, beautifully, like something from a magazine. I had driven 2 hours after finishing a morning shift at the hospital. I was exhausted, but I showed up, because that is what I always did. Renata arrived in a new coat I had never seen before, carrying bags from stores I couldn't afford. She kissed my parents on both cheeks and swept into the house like a celebrity arriving at her own premiere. I hung my coat on the hook by the door and helped my mother carry things from the kitchen without being asked. When it came time for gifts, my parents handed Renata a large envelope. She opened it slowly, for maximum drama, and then screamed. An actual scream. It was a full luxury cruise package, 2 weeks in the Caribbean, private cabin, the whole thing. $13,000, right there on paper. My mother cried. My father looked so proud I thought he might float right off the couch. Then my father reached into his shirt pocket and slid something across the coffee table toward me. A scratch-off lottery ticket. $2. He laughed when he handed it to me. For the woman who has everything, he said, winking at my mother. Renata giggled. I smiled because I didn't know what else to do with my face in that moment. Have you ever been humiliated so quietly that no one in the room even noticed? That is exactly what that felt like. I did not scratch the ticket that night. I tucked it into my jacket pocket and drove home in the dark, replaying the evening in my head. I wasn't angry exactly. I was something worse. I was used to it. And that was the saddest part of all. I had been conditioned to expect less, to receive less, to smile and be grateful for whatever crumbs fell my way while Renata collected the whole loaf. I got home around midnight and made myself a cup of tea. I sat at my kitchen table and thought about all the years I had worked twice as hard to be seen half as clearly. I thought about the nursing school loans I paid off alone. I thought about the birthday that passed 1 year without a single call. I thought about all of it. And then, almost without thinking, I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out that little orange ticket. I used a penny from the dish by my front door. I scratched slowly, the way you do when you're not really expecting anything. First number matched. That was fine, it happened sometimes. Second number matched. I sat up a little straighter. Third, fourth, fifth all matching. My heart started doing something strange and fast. And then I uncovered the prize amount, and the room seemed to tilt sideways. $100 million. I read it again and again. I turned the ticket over and read the instructions on the back. I set it down and walked to my bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. I came back. It still said $100 million. I sat down on my kitchen floor, not a chair, the actual floor, and stayed there for a very long time. Can you imagine what that moment feels like? When something so impossible becomes real right in front of your eyes. By 3 in the morning, I had made a decision that surprised even me. I was not going to tell anyone. Not my coworkers. Not my closest friend. Nobody. I had watched enough stories unfold to know that the moment money enters a room, people change. And I already knew exactly how my family would react, because I had watched them treat me as an afterthought my entire life. I needed to move carefully, thoughtfully, and completely on my own terms. I called in to work the next morning and took the day off, the first personal day I had taken in over a year. I drove to the lottery office with the ticket tucked inside a sealed envelope inside a second envelope inside my purse. I met with their legal team, I signed the paperwork, and I chose the lump sum payment. After taxes, I walked away with just over $58 million. $58 million. And I drove home in my 7-year-old sedan and made myself a sandwich for lunch. Over the following weeks, I worked with a financial advisor and an attorney, both of whom I found through independent research and paid for privately. I set up a trust. I moved a portion into long-term investments. I purchased a property and cash, a modest but beautiful house 2 states away, in a small town where nobody knew my name or my family. I gave a significant donation anonymously to the hospital where I worked, specifically to fund the nursing staff support program that had helped me during some of my hardest months. I told absolutely no one. I kept showing up to my shifts. I kept driving my same car. I kept living in my same apartment. From the outside, nothing had changed. Inside, everything had. About 3 weeks after Christmas, my cousin posted something on social media. She had seen a local news segment about a regional lottery jackpot winner. They hadn't released my name, but they had mentioned the city, the ticket retailer, and the amount. My cousin tagged me as a joke. "Wouldn't that be wild if it was Elena?" she wrote with a laughing emoji. I didn't respond, but Renata saw it. And Renata, I now understood, had been watching for any crumb of information since the night she overheard my mother whisper to my father that I had seemed strangely calm when I left Christmas Eve dinner. Within 48 hours of that post, my phone began ringing. I had put my phone on silent for a 12-hour shift. When I picked it up afterward, I stood in the hospital parking lot under the cold January sky and counted 79 missed calls. My mother, my father, Renata, my aunt, 3 cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, and 2 numbers I didn't even recognize. Text messages flooded the screen. "Elena, call me back. It's urgent. Sweetheart, we need to talk. Please call. Hey, it's Renata. I just want to catch up. No big deal. Just call me when you can. No big deal." 3 weeks after handing me a $2 joke gift while my sister received a $13,000 vacation, suddenly I was worth 79 phone calls. What would you have done if you were standing there, holding that phone? I didn't call back that night. I went home, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat with the silence for a long time. I thought about every holiday where I had driven hours and arrived exhausted and been treated like a footnote. I thought about my father's laugh when he slid that ticket across the table. I thought about Renata's giggle, and I made peace with a decision I had already quietly been making for weeks. I was not going to share my winnings with anyone who had spent years making me feel invisible. I was not going to be angry. I was not going to make a dramatic speech. I was simply going to live my life fully and freely and let my absence say everything my words never could. My mother eventually reached me. I answered on a Sunday afternoon because I chose to, not because I felt I owed her anything. She confirmed what I already knew they had heard through a family friend who knew someone at the lottery office. She cried. She said she was so happy for me. She said family should stick together. She said Renata was going through a hard time financially. She said all the things people say when they suddenly remember you exist. I listened. I was kind. I was composed. And when she finished, I told her I loved her, that I wished her well, and that I needed space to figure out my next chapter on my own terms. She tried to say more. I told her gently but clearly that the phone call was over. I hung up, and I felt, for the first time in as long as I could remember, completely free. I live in that quiet house now, 2 states away. I still work as a nurse part-time because I genuinely love it. It was never just about the paycheck for me. I have funded a scholarship at my old nursing school for students who need financial support. I travel when I want to. I sleep through the night. I do not check my phone in a panic wondering if I miss something important. My family eventually stopped calling as frequently. I send my parents a card on their birthdays and at Christmas. I am not cruel to them. I just no longer orbit around their expectations. The $2 scratch-off sits in a small frame on my bedroom wall, not as a reminder of what my family did, but as a reminder of what I did with it. I built something real, on my own terms, from something they handed me as a joke, and that, I think, is the most honest kind of victory there is. Have you ever had a moment where something meant to diminish you ended up defining you in the most powerful way possible? I hope you find yours. If my story meant something to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below.